Okay.
All right. I think we're finally set up and on and recording now. Um, this is Jason, and I'm here with David and Shannon Dye, one of many power couples of running here that I like to call. Um, I was telling them before we got hit the record button, that when I started running, that they used to live here locally where I'm at, and their names were always thrown out as, two really strong runners. I remember I had a friend, Colleen Lawrence, and they were doing the Jackals, and you guys were doing the Jackals, and they were talking about how fast and strong y'all were during that time. And so that was one of the first things I remember hearing about you guys, was like the Jackals and stuff. So anyway, I appreciate y'all doing this, and anyway, we'll kind of get moving along. So I guess, it doesn't matter who goes first. Let's talk about y'all's running story. I guess, I don't know, Shannon, we'll ladies first. How did you
Well, to be perfectly honest, I grew up playing team sports year-round, softball, basketball, soccer, literally. And I thought running was horrible. If there wasn't a ball involved, I genuinely thought running was just like the worst. If there was something to chase, or if there was a ball, yeah, I would do that. But otherwise, it was team sports. I grew up riding motorcycles and bikes and all that stuff. My dad had me on motorcycles, but yeah, it was team sports. But I went to college on a soccer scholarship and played at Tennessee Tech University in undergrad. And so, I mean, that felt normal, but after playing a little and some ACL tears and just really, all that, my kind of team sports career was over. So I started running to stay physically fit. And I remember running around our campus loop at Tennessee Tech. And one day I couldn't believe that I ran the whole thing without stopping. And that was a mile. And then I ran it twice, which blew my mind. And that was 2 miles, and it was on the sidewalk, in Cookeville, Tennessee. And then, I mean, it literally was the progression of 5K, 10K. My first race, like organized event ever, was the Franklin Classic, and it was the 5K. And somewhere in the universe, there's still a picture of me struggling because it was blazing hot. I'd never done it before. And then, yeah, from there, I really stuck to that 5K and then 10K, and then eventually discovered the half marathon mark. And I thought, okay, that's it. Like, I'm a sprint girl. I sprint sports. I know how to sprint down a court, down a field, and around bases. That's it. And so, yeah, that was it. And then somebody showed me trail running, and it was over. I felt like a kid again in the woods. And so anything that was, yeah, I mean, that's like the nutshell story of me. I really started to run because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to not be an athlete. And it was even harder to not have a coach, not have somebody telling me to get up at 5 and have 2-a-days, and somebody in my face, in the 90s,
mm-hmm.
and coaches could do all kinds of stuff that you can't get away with now. But I still call my coach, though, and who kind of taught me how to be self-disciplined. But yeah, that's my story, literally. And just eventually discovered trail running, which is, I mean, where I am now, and just what I enjoy, is being outside, that sense.
So did you, I guess with, it seems like, looking at kind of your results and stuff, it seems like you've always kind of been you've been, a pretty strong runner. Did you, starting out, you talked about struggling a little bit. Was there something that was there something that you did that kind of, I guess, kind of took you to where you kind of moved up? I guess you could say leveled up a little bit, because it seems like, looking at, like I said, some of your results, you've had some really solid results, and you've had some really good times, fast times, and whatnot. So I guess, when did it get, I mean, like, what was it that got you like really serious with it? Like, what was that like decided you're like, I'm going to go for this, and I'm going to be badass at it?
Yeah. I think, and of course, this is like early 2000s, we're all thinking, but I started finding, I mean, like Runner's World magazine, that kind of thing. And I mean, literally getting into the small stuff of this world that I knew nothing about. All I knew about was people that ran cross country. I had no idea that these races existed. And honestly, I think what drew me to it to keep coming back was how good it felt on a Saturday morning. You didn't even have to be running. It was just to go stand in the middle of all these people who were so happy, and just this community. The community drew me to it, but at the time, I still had a really competitive nature, and I've never been able to be competitive to consistently win things, win running races. I think I've won some, or won a couple or something that, a guy you probably know, Jacob Kerrigan.
Mm-hmm.
He honestly is the one that got me. He started getting me into races around Nashville that were smaller, so I could feel successful. If that makes sense. He wanted me to feel that and to feel fast, because at the time, I think that really honestly is probably where my strength is probably short distance fast, is how I grew up. And he didn't train me. I didn't have a coach, but he was the one that kind of in the beginning started showing me that I could compete, and that I could take the speed that I already had, and kind of the grit that I already knew, and pain, and knew how to deal with that in short distance. But people like Jacob, Lady Vicky Spickard, these people that are in the Nashville running community just showed me it was them, but it literally was like Runner's World magazine, and Fleet Feet in Nashville. I worked there when I got out of college. That showed me the shoe scene, and then the nutrition scene. And I got really interested in just small stuff at a time. I would learn just little things about not just my own run physically outside, but I started learning about this whole community of all these people that run these races or go out and run. And it became bigger and bigger until I didn't have to be in a group or at a race to be motivated to go do this. I kind of dug back into one coach in particular who really, Eve Hamilton, was my basketball coach since I was a kid until I graduated. And from the discipline, I think that she taught me, to people like Kerrigan, at being at Fleet Feet, reading stuff, reading about people like Dean Karnazes and these people I've heard of. I think all of that combined got me running by myself and training by myself and training hard. I mean, in the heat, nobody's around, nobody's timing me. I'm not getting any reward. And I think that's when I learned that I had that grit to kind of keep going and get more intense in that. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I think, I think that's what a lot of us, end up doing, always, finding somebody that we can look to kind of help get us, started, so to speak. So I guess moving on to you, David, what's your, how did it begin for you? Did you just go out and start, winning races from the get-go, or did you build up? What was your?
I built up. I started running with NRC, Northern Running Company, and that's where I started just getting my speed and distance down. Just chasing and being chased every Wednesday night by Waterman and Jason Lloyd and Joe Aurelia and Young Kim and all the old school guys that we used to run with when I first started.
So what got you in the running? Were you always a runner, or what was?
I was not. I was a cyclist for about 12 years, big cyclist. And I stopped and got out of shape and actually started running on a dare. And it was like enter a half marathon. I'm like, who can't run a half marathon? And I didn't really know how hard it was. So I trained for it, and just a little bit. I didn't know how to really train. I just went out and ran, and ended up doing pretty good. Did the Cobalt half marathon. That was my first ever race, and I won my age group, and got kind of addicted to it. So from there, I just started doing marathons. I tried to do some marathons, and then I did those for a few years, and then Young Kim talked me into doing the Black Warrior 50K in Decatur, Alabama, as my first 50K, and I did that and loved it, and just started entering more and more trail races.
So it sounds like to me you probably had a pretty good base of fitness that was just kind of there. You kind of fell out of it a little bit, but it sounds like with a lot of us, and I know that you guys can probably relate to this when I say it. For those of us who have a good, decent base fitness, it's going to sound bad, but we can get kind of lazy and still get away with still doing some stuff.
Yeah,
right.
We do that now. I mean, that's
Yeah, like you mean like couch to Georgia Death Race?
Yeah.
We've done that. Well, you did like twice.
Yeah, I mean we've done some races where we haven't trained at all. We just jumped in them and did them.
Yes.
And the fitness has got us through it now. We did suffer, but I mean we still made it through.
Yeah. But you're right. I think it's true. I think
we maintain a certain level. Yeah, we may not be in an elite level, but we maintain a certain level where we can do some random races, 50Ks, maybe a 50-miler. Now doing 100 is another story. But
yeah. I mean, that's a different thing, because looking at your results, I just noticed, up Chuck. I mean, that's not a slouch of a race.
No.
And then I know, that's one that just the average person just doesn't go out and run, so I think, the base fitness makes a huge difference. Now, it's funny that you mentioned that, David, about chasing people, because when I interviewed Jason and Eric, they said the exact same thing you said, that essentially that all you guys pushed each other into being better runners. And I think that is really, when you think about community, you think about, I know I wouldn't be where I'm at without people that help push me along to get me there. And it sounds like, listening to David, you, and then Jason and Eric, that all y'all's stories are very similar, that one of you would get fast for a minute, then the other one would have to catch up to that one, and then then one of you might get faster than the other, then the other one would have to catch up to the next one, and it seemed like you guys were constantly chasing each other, trying to catch up, so to speak.
Well, we broke so many people in. NRC's a race. It was a race every Wednesday night. And you were ready. I mean, you actually, rested up on Tuesday, so you'd be ready to go on Wednesday. Because I mean, it ended up being a 5-mile race. And when the new guy showed up, you know, we had to break them in. And so, you know, Eric was a new guy. Jason was a new guy. We've had Joe as the new guy, Joe Aurelia. You know, he just ran a 2:37 marathon a couple of weeks ago in St. Jude. I mean, but I remember when Joe could barely hang with the pace of me and Eric, you know, and so, I mean, it just kind of grew out of that. You know, everybody kind of got speed. I remember when Eric Waterman couldn't, you know, hold the pace for 5 miles, and now look how strong he is. And Jason,
he's
you know,
right. I mean, yeah, Jason's on a different level. I mean, that guy is
yeah,
just, I mean, you know, the things that he's accomplished this year has been nuts. And I mean, and it's just like, I think that that's such a positive thing about running. What it does is, you know, meeting people, like Shannon talked about, the community part of it, getting into that community and getting involved, and then letting those people push you to being better and pushing you to the next level. I think, you know, I probably would have never ran an ultra marathon if it wasn't for Colleen Lawrence and Joel and Sam and those people that said, "Oh, you can do it. It's only 5 more miles in a marathon, right?" And you know, but you don't know those things until people, you know, push you to do it, and you get out there and you realize you can do it. So your first race was Black Warrior, that's in Alabama, right?
yes, that's in
And
Decatur.
Decatur.
Yeah, and it's always like muddy, messy. It's in February. It's just a, you know, fair weather race, but it was a blast, you know, and I got hooked on it after that. And I mean, from there, I did some more 50Ks and then just jumped into a 100. So
Yeah. So and I think and so, what was your first ultra, Shannon?
My first ultra was the Barkley Fall Classic.
Oh,
And
wow! You
yeah,
just went right in. You like, just, no, I'm not even going to, no Black Warrior. I'm going to
well,
BFC.
I think it's like ignorance is ignorance. I mean, honestly, I didn't know what to expect. And Brooke McClanahan begged me to not make that my first ultra. And that was 2015. So I did it the second year that it had been a thing. Laz and Steve Durbin had made it much worse than when he did it in 2014. But I came in fourth and ran with Maggie Goodall all day. And I didn't know who she was, but we ran together and she was the coolest. And now all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 years ago, I'm sending a message to her and I was like, we ran together. We ran together. And no, I mean, but it ended up being one of the coolest experiences. And now we've been able to do it every year. I didn't do it this last year because of what happened to me in April, but we were still there as volunteers. We just really support what I think what Steve Durbin and what Laz have kind of put together and what they kind of throw out there. You know, it's an ultra, but it's a lot more. It's an adventure, and you figuring out, you know, you don't have a lot of help. And I think that's also a cool level that I have found is the fact out there at these ultras that you know, you may have drop bags, you may have crew or something, but it's really you. I mean, honestly, and I think that's what BFC was. But yeah, that was my first one. And then immediately the next weekend
stump jump.
Was stump jump. Yeah. So that was my second one. But 2 weeks before was the first time I had ever run 20 miles at one time. And then right after stump jump, which basically David and I had just started dating, and David trusted me to pace him through Pinhoti, which was it's the only year at Pinhoti that it has rained and been freezing and horrible weather. So, and I'd never run at night. So talk about like, just go ahead and test it.
Yeah, 45 miles.
So how did you guys meet? Did you guys meet this through the Nashville community?
We did, actually, I was a last minute fill-in on her black toe relay team. Like, I'm talking the day before, they sent me a message and I didn't even know who my team was.
Stephanie Span, thanks to her.
Yeah, ended up being on her team, and we met there and ran together, and then we ran some during the summer during dirt bags. Mala let me come over and run in with dirt bags, so I got to run with Jack and everybody, kind of just be a kind of a mentor to some of the new guys.
Make Jack really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then
Really
yeah, we went on our first date was BFC.
Yeah, it was.
She was running it, and I ended up sweeping it. So
there you go.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So the VFW in Wartburg, the night before BFC always makes us spaghetti dinner and a movie, or spaghetti documentary, or like that. So yeah, our first date literally was VFW spaghetti
At Barkley.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. So at the Black Toe, was that the year that you guys won the relay? Was that the team that won the relay? Or
no,
something?
we finished third that year.
Wow, that's still good though.
We did 3 years in a row. The first year we finished third. The second year we had it was me and Shannon, Rebecca Murray and Eric Waterman, and we finished first. And then who was the
Will.
Oh yeah, and then we
Will was
the
on our
third year
team.
we had Eric, Will, me and Shannon, Will Els, and we finished second that year.
When we introduced Will to trail running.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not doing that again.
No.
I'm done.
That's what you know. What's funny is the Black Toe was like maybe my third ever trail race. And so you know the group of people that I hang out with in Murfreesboro, right? So I thought they were exaggerating the course, okay? Like, because they were always like, you know, trying to scare me, you know? And so, you know, I had Will and Sam and them talking about, oh, this course is no joke, you know, it's tough, you know, and, you know, Will talked about his story with you guys and everything. And then I'm thinking he's just messing with me because I knew how fast he was, right? And I'm like, there's no way. And then I ran one loop of it and I was like, holy cow, this is no joke. I mean, it's one tough flipping, you know, course and whatnot. So I mean, golly, that's some amazing results. But anyway, so you guys met and so you guys started your trail running adventure together. And then I think, you know, I'm trying not to bounce around too much, but you hit on something that you guys are really involved in the community from what I can see. You know, I'm always, you know, it seems like you guys are at so many races, either you run a lot or you're volunteering. I know you're really involved heavily in the Chattanooga trail scene down there. So, you know, talk about that a little bit. Like, you know, is, you know, what draws you to being so like just community act, you know, because there's a lot of us that run these races, but not a lot of us are as active as you guys are, like, as a whole.
Yeah.
I don't know. We met so many people running. So when we go volunteer, it's like seeing family. We see so many people we know. So it's great to help them out on the other side, you know, and help them while they're suffering a little bit while you know, we're, you know, chilling out at the aid station.
Yeah. That and I think volunteering at races, you know, and we've I know here, I think, you know, when the Chattanooga 100, when that was still going on, we had manned an aid station, and I think the one on the perimeter, we love doing aid stations and volunteering. I think in that sense, just because it's really cool to be on the other side of the table. I think after a while now, I mean, a few years ago, I wouldn't have understood, you know, before I saw like Pinhoti, when I when I paced him, I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never seen people suffer like that or how it worked or any of this. But I think now that you can anticipate probably what somebody is thinking or feeling right then, just even what's going on in their face or what they're saying, you can usually kind of anticipate probably maybe what's missing or anticipate what they need but also know how to stay back. It's just kind of this really, I think we just like being on, that's the best way to put it. It's just on the other side of the table. Like now, like we get it from every distance, but every brain, thing you're going through, whether we've experienced it or whether we've seen people or whether elites out there that we, kind of have inspired us and we watch them go through things. I think everybody, we just really like to do that. But also, we don't do it enough. I wish we did it more often. But here in Chattanooga, we have probably more now, but a few years ago, like as of 2017 or 18, we had 54 trailheads within 20 minutes of downtown. And that's just incredible. I mean, the CT, everything on Lookout, everything on Raccoon, Signal, you name it, it's here. And there are wild trails, which is, you have Sorba for mountain bike and TVA does stuff, but wild trails down here, even though, people may know them for their, race series, but they are exponentially more than that. Randy and Chris Horton, the trail work that they do down here, both on path and blueway, like waterways. That's another thing, like he's saying, you end up at these trail work days and it feels like community, but you're also giving back, either cleaning up or building a path that your feet are going to be on. And so you take another level of pride in that path. I know now I spend every morning, you already know, like on creepy Lookout Mountain, by myself. And we went together last night, but I spend a lot of time out there. And when I see trash or I see stuff like that, graffiti, I don't think I've ever taken more pride in a set of trails and paths and trash than now that I spend so much time on it. So now when there's a chance to clean it up, I want to clean it up and I want to take care of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, because I know one of the most rewarding running experiences I ever had, it was actually when I crewed Will and Greg Armstrong doing SCAR. And, if you know anything about SCAR, there's not a lot of crew access points. So your crewing has to be spot on, because you really only see them a couple of times and you have to get things right. But it was so rewarding watching them get, push along and then watching them finish underneath their goal, because, even though you weren't running it, you kind of felt like you were a part of their experience, so to speak.
Team, man, that's a team. I did the same thing for Liz Canty, on doing scars.
She's going for FKT, and David, he got out there and was,
it is problem solving. At one point, she missed her aid station. We literally, took 5 minutes and emptied our packs and gave her everything that we could give her to food, to water, to whatever that she needed at that time. We gave everything that we had, even my phone, just so she could play music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you do as a part of a team. So,
right.
It feels like it almost feels like you did the race too, even though you didn't run, and that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it really does. And like I said, watching them finish and whatnot, it was so rewarding, because I knew how much it meant that they both hit, that sub 24-hour goal. And, you know, and they both, you know, and they did it, you know, and I mean, and you know, you knew that they, you know, there was some suffering involved, and they pushed through it, and they hit it, which made it all the more sweeter. And it's just really cool. And then listening to talk about your community, you know, part. I mean, I think that more people should do that. I know I should, and I'm guilty of it. You know, of not getting out and helping clear trails and stuff, because like I think we take for granted that these trails just don't magically keep themselves open, right? I mean, you know, it's just like I remember watching a guy through hiking the CDT, and there was some really bad storms that had blown through, and they had not had a chance to clear the trail. And so there was all these huge trees blown over, and he had no idea where he was going because nobody had been able to gotten out to clear the trail, right? But we take all that for granted because we just go out and we run on these pretty trails, right? I mean, they're there. We get out of our car. There's a pretty trail. We run on it. We don't think anything about the things that all the folks do to help keep these trails maintained at that level. And the ones that you're talking about, like the ones on Lookout Mountain, man, those trails are in great shape. I mean, in great shape.
Right. And that's thanks to, I mean, literally, like I was saying, like Wild Trails, Randy Horton. I mean, I'm literally probably the, I text Randy and tell him, take a picture and text him like the miles into whatever I'm doing or where it is. Cause this past year, we've had some pretty big blowdowns that they weren't just, you know, bark and the tree. It was the crown of the tree was, I mean, almost, you know, in the wintertime, it's one thing if that happens, but in the summer, I mean, you're gonna have poison ivy all over you and just be you know, if you're walking through it. So yeah, to have people like that, to literally text them and they come out, and he comes out with his massive chainsaw, and he teaches sawyers. You can go through a sawyer class with him to learn how to do that. And to have somebody like him that will come out to any trail anywhere, and the next time I run it, it's cut and it's pushed aside and it's cut, but it's cut right. It's not just he does it in such a manner as to avoid erosion or to disturb anything around it as little as possible. So as little moving things as possible and more cutting it. Yeah, you don't think about it. And I wasn't exposed to trails. I mean, I love Percy Warner Park, but I don't think either of us had really been, and our dogs are going nuts right now.
That's fine.
But I mean, they're acting out like children right now. They are. But I don't think that, even as much as we've been around Percy, and of course we had been to, you know, other races that we've run in, Lookout 50 and Quest for the Crest and all these other, you know, just big mountain races and stuff like that. And but we'd never been exposed to having these trails less than 5 miles out of our back door. And I never dreamed that I'd be able to be on Lookout Mountain by myself at 5 in the morning and nobody else is there. I got the whole thing to myself. And it's not just dirt paths, it's these rock formations of like those. But yeah, you have to not take it for granted, because this past year we had a trail, Jura Trail, which there was no sign. It just was called Jura, and it was part of Lookout 50. But for a nutshell of reasons that we won't even go into, it was taken away like that. And the National Park Service just said it wasn't a part of the national park and gone. They said it wasn't a part of history, and they cut trees down, blocked it, put up a fence, and it was over.
Wow.
And it broke hearts. And so you all of a sudden realize how connected, I mean, without sounding cheesy or cliche, you suddenly find out that you're like connected to these trails. So yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. You don't really know, like, you definitely don't realize, you're just so used to something being there, and then one day it's gone. You just
Yeah.
like,
It's just
like,
gone.
like you said, you don't, you definitely. It's easy to take stuff like that for granted.
Right.
So I guess um, moving to some of your races, you guys have done like some really cool things. So in like I said, not to go through each individual race. So I'll let you guys. We'll just kind of talk about, like, when you think about you know when you think about your favorite race. What is like your favorite, your favorite race? It could be your favorite race, your biggest accomplishment, the one thing that really means a lot to you when it comes to, like, from a running standpoint. It doesn't matter whichever one of you want to go first.
Go ahead. I know what yours is, so.
You don't know what mine is.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
Go ahead.
What do you think it is?
That's her favorite race of all time.
I don't know about
She'll do
that.
it almost every year.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Pinhoti.
I love Pinhoti. I do love Pinhoti, and I think I love Pinhoti. I will say there is this equal love for Barkley Fall Classic and Pinhoti. Barkley, I mean, that's where David and not met, but that was, that was our first date. But there's something about that race though, and something about, I don't know, BFC, and maybe Pinhoti too, because it was the first 100 that I had ever seen or paced. But there is definitely something about the Pinhoti 100 that if I never went and ran another 100 anywhere else, which it took me 5 times to finish a 100, between Vermont, which I'll run again, I have this July. It took me 5 tries, and Pinhoti was the first one that I finished. There's just something about that course, and I love Jamie and Todd, the race directors, but yeah, Pinhoti for sure, BFC for sure.
That's hers. Barkley Fall Classic for sure. I've been there every year. It's been going on. So I've either ran it or volunteered at it. So that's always going to be one of my favorites. Quest for the Crest probably is the prettiest race. I've done it 3 times and it is amazing.
It's hard.
It's the prettiest course I've ever seen. Of course, okay. And if you've never done it, it's hard to explain, but yeah, the ridge trail up top is probably spectacular.
It is.
I have to tell you, the best race I've ever ran, and I know that the guy's not popular, but I got to run the Chattanooga 50 the year that Sean Blanton was able to take it from Cloudland Canyon into downtown Chattanooga. It was the one and only time. That was a year that we had to ride the stupid bus for a mile or whatever, right?
Yes.
I think I did it the last year before it was gone, right? Well, I've never been on a course that was that. Well, I guess it was multiple courses, right? Because went from Cloudland Canyon into downtown.
You're on Lookout Mountain and you're in Cloudland Canyon.
Yeah, the connector trail goes straight from
Yeah,
and then you go through Lula Lake. The whole thing was stunning, and I don't know what it is about the guy. He's not the nicest person in the world, but somehow he manages to find some of the prettiest courses out there. And I've heard Quest for the Crest is a really pretty course.
I tell everybody that you need to do Quest for the Crest at least once. So it is gorgeous. So yeah, he puts on. We've done GDR, we've done Cloudland Canyon, which was spectacular when we did it, the 50K.
Have you done Lookout Mountain 50?
Not yet. No, no. I did.
If you enjoyed what you saw with the 50, with the Chattanooga 50 or whatever, that's the course plus the eastern face of the mountain, which that race was not the national park would not allow that race to have the eastern face.
I see.
Yeah, so you do basically from Covenant, the eastern face of Lookout where I run all the time, and then back up to Covenant and what you've already run before on the Moonshine Trails. But you would enjoy it. And Lookout Mountain 50 is this weekend, and that's a wild trails race.
Yeah, and I think the reason why I haven't done it is just the time, and my job requires me to be there on the weekends in December. And so like I'm literally on like every single Saturday. And maybe one day I'll be able to run it, because that one is one that a friend of mine, John Horner, has been trying to get me to run forever. He's like, you've got to run the that race. It's like the best. And so that's definitely one that I want to check out. I think one cool thing about you guys is you guys did the Jackals, which is 5 marathons in 5 days. That's not easy. And I guess, when you compare it to running a 100-miler, was that harder, or was it?
Yeah, it's more painful. It's definitely more painful, especially in the summertime too, when it's 90-something degrees every day. So you're just dehydrated every day. But yeah, running a marathon, because you're not running you are running a little bit for time, but you're basically running the finish and then go recover for the next day. And so, yeah, it's instead of that nonstop, which you would do at 100, and you run straight through, it hurts. But when you stop and then try to start again the next day and do another big race, that's more painful to me.
I think your body has time to. It's weird because we always have it in the middle of June and it is blazing hot. So yeah, you're dehydrated and you feel awful. And when you're done, you don't want to eat, but everybody's felt that. You're in calorie deficit and you have to eat because the next day you're going to do it again, but you don't want to. You're all fired up, so you don't sleep. It's really, you just go back to your hotel room and take a shower and go to sleep. And then, but all you can think about is like, oh, I'm doing it the next day. And, the first 2 days, the Jackal and the Backash Jackal, that's on trails. But then for me, the worst part is the following 2 days, which is on a flat concrete park. That's just
like a 2.5 mile loop.
Clover leaf that's horrendous. And then the last one's on the trail. But I think it's just different. And it's also loops. So it's easy to want to stop.
It's mental,
right?
Mental tough than it is physical to me.
Yes.
Yeah. Because I don't like loop courses. I don't like the heat. And so it just adds up. Everything adds up to just being a mental challenge.
It really,
Because everybody, when you're doing it, everybody is like, I am so done with this. I want to be done. And then we all line up the next day and do it over again.
Do it all over again. And I think for those folks that don't know what the Jackals are, because not everybody may know what that is it's a race put on by Run It Fast and Josh Holmes out in West Tennessee. And it's 5 marathons in 5 days, just like what they were saying here, where it's part of it's on trail, part of it's on a paved surface, and it's in the heat of the summer. It's
not scenic.
No.
It's just it's ugly trails. There's nothing to look at. There's nothing that makes you get excited to see. It's just so monotonous.
Right. Well, I think it's a challenge. Right?
Yeah, that's what makes it, a hard race. The mental aspect.
Right. Absolutely. And I guess, David, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you win Big's Backyard one year?
No, I won. What's the race?
Backyard. Well, it doesn't happen anymore, but it was Backyard Classic. It's not Big's. It just happened to be named.
It was an 8-hour race, and
that's a set time race
in Kentucky.
Yeah.
It's like
So you didn't do Laz's race, the one?
No, I haven't done Laz's race. No, I
No.
won the Josh Holmes race.
We were signed up for it,
Jackson.
and we didn't do it a few years ago.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
did
I won,
another one.
what was, what's Josh's race?
Cannonball,
No, Cannonball's here.
Trail of Fears.
Trail of Fears. I won Trail of Fears many years ago in Jackson. And
Oh,
last man standing.
we should have got out the pearly belt buckle. It's like Josh basically picks it up at a gas station.
It's a truck stop belt buckle that you would get, for like $10.
It was
I mean-
pearl.
But yeah. But no, it was short. It didn't go near as long as like what a Big's
No.
backyard would. Yeah.
But it's
okay.
But it's his became a golden ticket, 2 Bigs. Trail of Fears
A few
became
years
that.
ago it was. I don't know.
Well,
if it is
after
anymore.
Bigs got big, because in the like for eons when Bigs was, started until just maybe 3 or 4 years
Yeah, about
ago,
3 years
it
ago.
was like chilly at Laz's house
Yeah.
and you run. But then all of a sudden it just exploded. But that was the thing with, I think with kind of with all this trail running, all of a sudden, and kind of what I'm hearing, like, it became more than running. It became, sometimes I feel like more of what these things are really adventures. I'm certainly not out there competing as an elite or something now. Anytime if I were to compete, it would be something like Jackals, where I think my brain might outwit somebody, but physically it's different. But yeah, all these things that just, there's so many different, there's an out and back, there's a looped race, there's a point to point, there's things that just go, and there's no point in going fast because you're just going to start over. Everything has this different puzzle to do. And somebody, I don't know who it was, one time called an ultra marathon or 100-miler a big problem that you're constantly just trying to solve, like a little bit at a time. And so I think all of these are so different, but they are all these just big, weird adventures. And somebody comes up with like, what can we do? And that's why BFC is so, it's so miserable. It can be so miserable, but the combination of what Steve Durbin and Laz will create and what the park will allow him to do, it'll challenge you to your nth. There are plenty of runners out there that are elites and win everything, and I would hands down challenge them to just BFC. You can, I don't know what you think, but I literally don't think that you can fathom the Barkley marathons unless you do BFC. Genuinely, you can't fathom it unless you do the Fall Classic. Then you can maybe start to wrap your brain around that big thing that's been going on since 1982.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, and I think when you think about them, you think about how Laz and Durbin like to challenge people. Look at Stroll and Jim. Stroll and Jim. Literally one of the most miserable days of my life was at Stroll and Jim. It was hot. It came a terrible thunderstorm, just horrible. It was lightning.
I think it's rained every time we've done it.
Were you there the year that it was 3 years ago when it really
That was it. Yep.
Yeah.
That was it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were there.
Yeah.
But I like
it.
Stroll. I think it's a fun challenge.
It's so miserable.
It is a great race, but the one thing I learned, the one thing I was told was, you need some sort of a crew to help you with, because otherwise there's just jugs of water sitting on the side of the road.
That's all
And
we've
I
ever
thought they
was jugs of water. Yeah, we've never had a crew to do it. And this year I crewed Waterman and Jason, Lloyd, to try to get them under 6. Yeah. And so they did it like 5:52 or something like that. But yeah, they said they wouldn't have been able to do it without a crew.
No, no, it makes a huge difference. The year I did it, that was only my second ultra marathon, and Randall Rupel,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
his wife, yeah, his wife crewed us, and I survived it. I didn't think I was when that thunderstorm hit, and it was wind blowing sideways and thundering and lightning and whatnot. But just that course and the way the aid was set up, or let me say the lack of aid, if you didn't have a crew there, that would be, like you said, that's a really challenging race. And
Yeah.
you almost have to have a crew if you're wanting to lay down any sort of a decent time there, because
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the first time I took Eric Waterman on it, I'm like, yeah, the jugs are sitting on the side of the road, and he picked up a jug and it's like, man, this water's hot. I was like, yeah, it's been sitting outside all day.
right.
And, he's used to having water in a fancy cooler. As people, dishing it out to you and taking your pack. He's not used to bending over on the side of the road, picking up a jug and pouring your own, basically your own aid station.
So he's probably used to like a nice purified Evian water,
Oh
something
yeah,
saying,
but we're talking
so,
water. Water's are running.
Very
Hoover.
delicate,
Yeah.
very delicate,
yes, something very nice,
very nice and delicate.
right? Not the Kroger water
You
No.
need to
that's sitting
ask,
out overnight.
yeah, ask Eric about when he decided to run Lookout 50 in a Dye sandwich. He decided to run it in between.
Oh, we have great stories.
in
Great
betwixt.
stories.
You don't want to run a race. Wait, Sam knows what it's like to run between the dyes and
Yeah.
how bad it is. And Eric needs to talk about when he said he was done, he wanted to quit, wanted to stop, he wanted to walk. We're like, you can't. We're like 5 miles from the finish, but he was, pouting on the trails. But we won't go into all that. We won't go. Yeah, we won't. Oh, there's so many stories, Jason.
Oh, I'm sure there are, and I knew that, and I knew coming into this, it was like I was like, there's no way I'm going to have enough time to go over everything, to talk about everything with them, even with y'all's races and whatnot. Like you guys have done so much and accomplished so much, and I think it's interesting that you guys talk about BFC, because so many people talk about how much that race means to them. And I think it's so great when you look at what Laz has done. He's built such a community of runners, not just around BFC, but with Strolling Gym, and now Biggs has gotten to that level, and you got of course for the super elites you have Barkley, and him and Durbin has just created such a great little community. And I think even you look at not just them, you look at Josh Holmes and what he's got. He's built a great community of great races and whatnot. And I think it goes back to where we started at the beginning, where being around people and running these races, it helps push you to that next level. I think like the Jackals and whatnot. I remember when Colleen was running the Jackals, you guys were running the Jackals, and I her talking about watching you guys doing so well there, and I know that all that stuff helps us all push to that next level and to be successful. And I think that's what Laz does every year. He pushes everybody to that next level, right? Like, what can we do with BFC to make it harder, more challenging? I saw pictures this past year and I was like, the course didn't even look like you could run on it. It looked like a mudslide, like the people.
Yeah, there, yeah.
This is the first time. We've always wondered if it would rain every year, and it never has. It's rained prior to it, or something, but it's never rained. But yeah, I mean, him and Durb are great, and I think they really threw down they want to see you do well. Laz wants to see you do well, but he's also not afraid to completely humiliate you. As far as like when they created the marathon, there is no marathon. It's it's either the 50K or it's not. But basically, you know, when they threw that down, you know, that's when it, like, they start to try to separate so you try to step up to, and yeah, I mean, one person like Colleen, it's a very long story, but, you know, I won't tell her BFC story, but it's people like her who, she probably wouldn't mind me saying it, but 1 year, maybe 2 years ago, I think she got to the decision point, and I think her time, she barely made it, and probably wasn't going to finish, but she had the option to either keep going that last 9 miles or take Quitter's Road back, just take it back, knowing that you're probably not going to finish in the 13 hours and 20 minutes that you have.
Unless you just really push it.
Unless you just like redline it,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I say that because that's the mindset. We really respected that mindset. And I think when you see people do that, not that it's not great when people make it to the marathon finish. I mean, you know, it's like I said, you signed up for a 50K. Did you finish the 50? No.
Right.
Colleen chose to go that last 9 miles. She didn't go down Quitter's Road. And I think that's the stuff that Laz wants to see.
Right.
You know, it's just, I think just stuff like that, people getting in the pain cave. But yeah, there's tons of, there's so many race directors out there. I mean, Todd, you know, the people that, you know, that do, that do the Pinhoties and that put on, you know, the 200s and all these people have these visions of these great races and community. I think it's great. Some are steadfast and stick around a long time, and you know, some come and go and fade, but they all have their character, you know.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's what makes this sport so fun. You know, and you know, just looking back, you know, throughout our conversation, you know, it just struck me how involved you guys are in everything, and how you know community minded you've been, and you know, and involved just everywhere. Like I said, and like I said, you know, we're running out of time, but like I was saying, you know, there's so many more stories that we could get into, and you know, your involvement in Nashville, and you know, it's just there's just tons of stuff there. And it's funny, when I was scheduling you guys, I thought, you know, I'm going to have to do one interview, and then, you know, maybe 6 or 7 months down the road, we'll have to do another one where we just talk about more stuff, because you guys have got just so many stories and stuff. It's just so great. You know, but anyway, you know, I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this and everything. And I'll let you get back to your evening and stuff. And as always, thank you for taking the time to talk to me and talking a little bit about why you guys run and your running story and all that you do to support the community and whatnot. So, you know, I just really appreciate your time. So
no problem. And yeah, if you want to have like the dirt edition, let us know, because we have some good stories.
Yeah, I think
yeah. The Dye collection.
Ink Runner After Dark.
Ink Runner After, yeah. Absolutely. I think that would be more entertaining, you know, to get the scoop on everybody, right? Because we all know, you know, we definitely know there's some stories out there that, you know, it's funny. The story about Will at Black Toe still cracks me up to this day, because, you know, he's Will, right?
Yeah, it's Will.
It's Will. I mean, we were always like, Will's just, it's Will. We're always like, Will, yeah. Will. And he just so.
Yeah, we've turned quiet people into very outgoing people after a while.
You can take us in doses. Like, we know that you can just take us in doses, at least me. on like doses, but here's to like 22 and like legs that, you know, are better and don't you almost lose one. And we
hopefully we'll have a smooth year this year.
so oh my gosh, such a smooth year. Yeah.
Well, David, I'll see you at Mountain Mist because I signed up for Mountain Mist and
Oh,
I've been averaging about 10 miles a week
that's
the
perfect.
the Greenway, so it should be perfect, right? So you know,
I'll be there.
You're gonna be there too.
Yeah, as long as they don't have to cut on stuff or cut any more on me or fix things. So I'm
Cool.
not. I haven't signed up yet because we don't know like what's next with this. It's been nuts. So, but I plan to hopefully be there and to run as adequately as I can.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, maybe you can hang out with me while David is blazing through the trail.
I'll probably be with Waterman. That's our tradition. We do it every year together.
Oh.
Then you guys will probably be back home by the time I finish then. So that's fine.
Oh, no, we always wait around. That's probably one of our favorite races that me and Waterman do together.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's my first year.
Oh yeah, you'll love it.
This is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's always crappy trail because it's always muddy or something.
What I heard.
Yeah, it's just a fun race.
Yeah, but you have to do it for 10 years so you can get the jacket.
Yeah, I definitely need to do it more. Yeah, John Horner told me that I will enjoy the waterline climb, so I know that has to suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the last aid station with Chilean beer.
Chilean beer.
It's not a combination that should ever happen when you're running. So
well, we'll be there.
I will see you guys then. Thank you again, guys, and I will see you later.
All right.
bye.
Bye.